Welcome to Femme Furious, a podcast where pop culture meets a feminine framing. I am your host, Julia Rose Portela, and today we are ditching our wedding, as all good women should do, and jet-setting off to Paris. But before we dive into today's episode, let me tell you how you can follow the pub. You can subscribe to the podcast on Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts. You can watch full video breakdowns on YouTube and Spotify. You can send me your Conrad Fisher Bye Bye Birdie-esque sonnets to my email. That is femmeandfuriouspod@gmail.com. You can always follow on TikTok or Instagram at FemmeandFuriousPod. And of course, you can join the Lipstick and Lore newsletter. That goes out once a week. It includes the Fast Five, which is a weekly content roundup. It includes Lipstick and Lore, which is all the nerd news that you need to know about from this week. And it gives you chic peeks that are coming up on the pod. And speaking of chic peeks, let's take one at this episode of television. Here is your blanket spoiler warning for all 3 seasons of the TV show, The Summer I Turned Pretty, and the books that the TV show is based off of. This episode of television is Season 3, Episode 8. It is titled Last Kiss. It is written by Sarah Kuczerka and Jenny Han, and is directed by Katina Medina Mora. Here's your synopsis. Belly finds herself caught between what her heart wants and what her head is screaming for her to do. And as Susanna's memory lingers over every decision that every person in this TV show makes for no particular reason, the tension between Conrad and Jeremiah, for a very good reason, finally explodes, leaving Belly with an impossible choice. The fragile peace at Cousin's Beach shatters as long-buried feelings rise to the surface on Belly and Jeremiah's wedding day. Okay, let's dive into this week's Femme Frame, where we will look at key feminist themes, history, cultural context, and more. When I was looking at this episode of television that I feel like everybody else was gaga about, and I was really not so high on, like, to me, so far, episode 6 was a pinnacle, and it's something that I think will live iconically in my brain as like an episode of television that I love and want to keep revisiting. I don't know, I wasn't so high on this episode. That doesn't mean it was bad, and we're going to obviously talk about it in a minute. But what really stood out to me about this particular episode was the idea of cold feet. And no one says it, no one uses that language, but cold feet is such a strange phrase, right? The phrase started popping up in the 1800s, not in wedding chapels, but on battlefields. Soldiers who didn't want to charge forward when they were in battle were said to have cold feet. The image being that the fear literally freezes you. It makes you unable to move. So essentially we're talking about fight, flight, or freeze / fawn. By the early 1900s, though, it had slipped into wedding culture. And ironically, it gets tagged to women. So instead of men being incapable of moving forward on the battlefield, the term gets tied to women who are nervous to walk down the aisle because, of course, nothing makes society salivate like questioning whether a woman is ready to commit. A groom who gets nervous, well, he is just a man who is thinking things through, who is thinking about his future, who's taking things seriously. But a bride who hesitates, suddenly she has cold feet. And honestly, if I was a child bride in the 1900s being sold to the highest bidder, likely a person twice my age, and I was expected to bear his children, I would probably be hypothermic with doubt too. Regardless, the double standard still lingers today. The phrase isn't really about a fear of marriage itself. It's about the gut check that you have before this big, huge moment in your life. It's a moment of clarity before stepping into something huge. And for women, though, it has been historically framed as indecision or weakness. Like we're silly little snow bunnies who can't handle the weight of a diamond ring. And for Belly, she doesn't have to worry about that because she doesn't have a big enough diamond ring to be worried about the weight of it. But instead, we are fully formed humans asking, is this decision the right decision for me? Which is exactly what Belly ends up doing over the course of this episode. Now, here's where I want to connect it back in a more profound context to The Summer I Turned Pretty Season 3. Belly is standing at a crossroads that feels just as permanent as the marriage potentially could be itself. And I know that marriage is not necessarily this big permanent thing at this point, but you've dragged all of these people out here. You're going through this whole experience. She's being pulled towards what feels safe and warm, i.e. the pool, a small contained body of water. And that is marrying her best friend, Jeremiah Fisher. But she also got this deeper pull to the infinite ocean and the wild waters of Conrad Fisher. And that's what she really wants, right? Even if it's messier, if it's scarier, if it's less guaranteed. And this is what she talks about in the beginning of the episode when her and Conrad get into their little kitchen altercation. She's like, he makes me feel everything. Fear, joy, excitement, anger. He makes me feel all of it. And that's why it's this big, messy, complicated thing for her, because she knows she doesn't feel that for a very safe bet like Jeremiah. To the point where she even has narration just like a few minutes later where she says, girl could bet her whole life on Conrad Fisher's love, but she's too afraid to blow up her life and this hole that she has dug herself in with Jeremiah to do it. And she doesn't say it exactly that way, but she basically says that throughout the narration. So cold feet isn't a bad thing here. It's not a bad thing that she's having this experience of doubt or that gut check of like, do I really want to go forward with this? They are a sign in any capacity, in any context, that her heart is waking up and taking inventory. And this is true for many women or men who are going down the aisle, that their heart is taking inventory in this moment and recognizing that there is something about it that just doesn't sit right with their energy body. We don't talk about our energy body enough, but as somebody who, has an entire framework called energy alchemy, okay, this is pivotal. It's important. It's critical. It is the voice that is saying, don't just walk forward because it's expected, or don't just walk forward because it's out of fear, or don't just walk forward because it's out of pride. Walk forward because it's true. And of course, in the end of the episode, she doesn't end up walking forward because it's true. She ends up walking away. Some of that seems a little bit more like it's Jeremiah's decision than Belly's, but it's truly what is reflecting what is in her heart and what has been going on for the deeper context of the day. She's like looking for anybody to give her an out and then feeling really overwhelmed every time they do. If we zoom out and we look at this even larger on the pop culture scale, we have always been obsessed with cold feet moments for decades. We have Julia Roberts literally running away in Runaway Bride. We have Carrie Bradshaw throwing herself into a fit of chaos in Sex and the City. We have Rachel Green standing in her wedding dress on Friends. These moments aren't about fear of love. They're about fear of losing yourself in somebody else's life plan. This is exactly what Taylor points out to her. She's like, you gave up Paris for Jeremiah. You chose Jeremiah over your mom. You chose Jeremiah now over me. Like, there's something about this that isn't healthy. And she's pointing it out that there's a fear that Belly is losing herself in everything that Jeremiah is kind of placing on top of her to satiate really his own ego. And Belly, in her own teenage sun-drenched way, is facing that exact same tension. So maybe we need to stop treating cold feet like a diagnosis and start treating it like an intuitive pull, which is exactly what it is. A last second chance to ask yourself if you're walking down the aisle, or alternatively, if you're walking down somebody else's path. And in Belly's case, that frostbite might just be the price of choosing love over expectation. Okay. Let's go through our slay by slay of episode 8. Let's start with Belly's emotional state and all of the red flags that are going on in this episode, because there's a few. First and foremost, the language that Belly uses around marrying Jeremiah is very specific and I'm sure very intentional, because never over the course of the season, not once in all 8 episodes that we've had over the course of the season, has Belly ever said, I am marrying the love of my life, that Jeremiah is the love of her life, that she loves him so much. Belly constantly says, I'm marrying my best friend. And that tells you again and again, that's the level that he's on. He's her friend. That's how she perceives him. It doesn't matter that the relationship has progressed. It doesn't matter that there is actual love there. It doesn't matter that there may have been sexual tension. I have sexual tension with my friends all the time, okay? Doesn't mean you have to act on it. She knows somewhere deep down that Jeremiah is a friend, that Jeremiah isn't this man that she has this deep, intimate, passionate connection with. And I know that, like, societally now, we have turned this idea of marrying your best friend into something that should be romanticized. But honestly, I think there is something to be said about having a romantic connection with somebody that you are friends with, that like a friendship is there and it's a foundation. But your best friend is your best friend. They are a category all of their own. Your best friend should be there whether or not you're getting married. Your best friend should be there whether or not you're in that marriage. If you leave the marriage, your best friend will be there. Your best friend is a piece of you that exists for you. And I know that for some people those lines cross over, but for Belly, she's telling us again and again in this language that it's not supposed to be. That she's marrying her best friend and that the love of her life, okay, as we got the song, LOML, at the end of episode 7, we get that song that is connecting the love of her life to Conrad. Jeremiah is her best friend. Jeremiah is somebody that remains in her mind a friend. It's not that she doesn't love him, it's that she does not love him romantically. Doesn't mean she hasn't tried, doesn't mean that it hasn't gotten sexual. I don't know how else to put it. It's just very telling to me that she continues to use the language of I'm marrying my best friend, and it doesn't seem like it's this romanticized way, like, oh my God, I love him so much, he's the love of my life, he's my best friend. Okay? Your best friend is your best friend. The love of your life is the love of your life. I have a best friend. I don't have a love of my life. But if I did, they are not the same person. They don't exist on the same plane. You can love two people passionately, and they do not play the same role. Her best friend is meant to exist in her best friend role. Does that make sense? Am I making sense? Okay, anyway, let's talk about Laurel for a second, because as they are going into the country club to be there for Belly's wedding, she's like, Mom, are you gonna talk me out of it? Like, are you gonna try and talk me out of it again? And Laurel's like, no, honey, I trust you to do whatever you want. And Belly is just like, please, like, that was the lemon belly jelly early on. She was like, are you gonna try and talk me out of it? She's blinking in Morse code. Okay, there's an episode of Sherlock, if you ever watched like the Benedict Cumberbatch and Martin Freeman version of Sherlock on BBC, there is an episode where Dr. Watson is being held and he's blinking SOS in Morse code. That's what her words were doing to me. She was blinking in Morse code. She was just like, sorry, are you going to talk me out of it? I'm blinking twice because I'm not okay. Can you help me get out of this? And I think she was looking for an out to be like, my mom's still not cool with it, right? Like, she's looking for that eject button, that quick abort button, abort mission. She's ready to be done with this. It's freaking her out that she knows that Jeremiah is missing after she's made this huge confession about what Conrad has said to her, and now she's looking for a way out of it that seems a little bit easier. I think, you know, Laurel just seems like the first line of defense where she's asking for that, which is funny because she has an opposite reaction to Taylor later on. And honestly, I think if this came a little bit sooner from Taylor, Belly would have maybe responded a little bit differently. Okay, I know this is going to be my own persnickety little thing, but imagine asking your wedding planner for an anatomically correct shaped heart ice sculpture at your wedding and then not having a hair or makeup person. Also, why is she getting ready alone? I don't understand. I've been in everyone's fucking wedding and their cousins. I have never, ever, ever been to a wedding where the mother of the bride is on good terms and alive with their daughter, with the bride, and has not been in the room getting ready with them. And I have never, ever, ever, ever been a part of the bajillion weddings that I've been involved in, have ever been part of a bridal party, doesn't matter that it is a party of one, Taylor, and not been with the bride while you get ready. Why is Belly getting ready alone? Why is Belly alone? Why is Belly alone? Why is there no one there to help her with her hair? Why is there no one there to help her with her makeup? I know that she's not in this big, fancy, huge, crazy dress, but like nobody is there. And then later on, she goes lemon belly jelly to her mom, and then her mom is there, and then like that's it. Like no one even escorted her back to the house. Like your daughter just called off her wedding, nobody's with Belly. I don't know if it's because she was embarrassed that they were calling off the wedding and Laurel was just like, I will handle it on this front, and left her alone. But like Belly is alone for so much of this episode, and I don't understand why people keep coming in and out of her room and why there is not a consistent moment by moment like support system there for her as she's going through the biggest day, one of the biggest days of her life, potentially, as she's getting married. And like your memories are going to be of being alone and being stressed getting ready in your wedding room by yourself. I don't understand. Like, not Taylor, not her mom. Nobody's there with her. Her dad doesn't come in to check in on her. Like, nobody. And when people come in, they come in and then they come out. Like, I don't understand what is happening with this wedding, and I don't understand why she didn't have any hair or makeup. You spent all of this money. Adam is footing the bill. You didn't think that you should hire somebody to do your hair and makeup? Okay, anyway. Why does Belly stuff the wedding dress into her luggage at the end? I don't know why. I know that she's going to end up going to Paris and finding herself. I know that. But she has this mysterious phone call where she gets to the airport and goes, hey. And we know that she doesn't talk to her parents until potentially next episode, because the trailer that we got, since now we are at the end of the book, like at this point there are like 3 additional pages, maybe like 4 or 5 additional pages that haven't happened, and then about like a few pages of letters that go back and forth. So we're at the end of the book already. So we get this trailer that I think was really meant for book readers of The Summer I Turned Pretty, to show that this is like what's additional, this is what's changed, this is what's added on from the series proper. So we know that Belly goes to Paris. We know that she's working at a movie theater. We see her with friends. We see her sort of flirting with this guy. And we also know that in that trailer, she has a phone call to her parents because Laurel's on the other end and she's like, where the hell are you, Loca? So who is it that she's on the phone with? Because she's not on the phone with Conrad. She doesn't call Conrad to tell him because A, she looks shocked to see him at the end of the episode. B, he is not actively looking for her. He's like actively looking away. If he knew that she was at the airport and she called him, he would be on high alert. When you're looking for somebody, you're actively looking for somebody. You'd be looking for somebody at the gate where they're coming in, right? So he has no idea. So she doesn't call her parents and she doesn't call Conrad. Maybe she called Taylor, but like the fact that she stuffs this wedding dress into her bag and now is getting on a flight, I fear that maybe we are looking at the hope of an elopement. I don't know. I don't know if she took it because she was being sentimental. I don't know if she took it because she was unsure. I don't know why she would take the wedding dress and leave everything else. Like, I'm sorry, she didn't pack up everything that she owned at Cousins Beach and bring it home with her. There's just no possible way. She's been living there all summer. She would have had way more than one suitcase worth of stuff. So why does she take the wedding dress? And who is it that she calls at the end of the episode before she gets on her flight, before she gets to the gate? I don't know what any of that means, but I do know that I am foaming at the mouth to find out. So let's talk about Conrad. It opens on Conrad not going on the fishing trip with Jeremiah and his frat bros. And it opens with him and Belly in the kitchen, basically where he does the thing that Conrad always does, which is repress and deny. So we know from episode 7 that he did not drink at all. He drank water the entire night that they were out for the bachelor party. And yet he shows up to the kitchen and he goes, hey, can we forget what happened last night? I was really drunk. And in seasons past, in episodes past, Belly takes that sort of like give and take really, really hard. And we've seen this season that she starts to take more of Conrad's natural deny and repress behavior on the chin. So again, when he's literally limping through the house, he's got this huge gash, he's crashed out on his surfboard, and he's bleeding up the stairs, and he's like, I'm fine, I'm a med student, I've got it. And she's like, would you let me help you for fuck's sake? And she takes it on the chin. She doesn't really allow him to continue to demonstrate the same behaviors that he has demonstrated that in the past have cost them their relationship or their connection to each other. And she does it here again. He goes, I was drunk. Can we just forget it? And she goes, no, you weren't. No, you were not drunk. And I love that she calls him out on it. And then he calls her out right back. He goes, I know that you know that I love you. I'm not going to pretend for you anymore. And he means it when he says it because he's trying to give her an out. And now we understand what this deny and repress has always been about. It is about giving her an out because while Belly is over here looking at Conrad, hanging the moon and saying like, this is the best person I've ever met. I've had a crush on him my entire life. I've loved him since I was 10 years old. There's no possible way that he's ever going to feel about me the way that I feel about him. he's telling her the same thing right here. He's basically saying, I've had so much insecurity about this, whether it's about her, whether it's about himself, whether it's the pressure that he's been put under for being the first child born, like whatever it is, wherever it stems from. I don't know. We're not Conrad's therapist. That's what he's got a therapist back in California for. Whatever that is, he's saying, like, I'm trying to give you an out. I'm trying to give you an excuse. I'm trying to give you an excuse, and I'm trying to gain a little bit of pride, because every time I get vulnerable, people basically shut me down. And there's so much more to this conversation. It is like the Titanic skimming the iceberg. There is so much iceberg underneath the surface that is happening in this conversation. But the fact that Belly takes it on the chin and she's like, you were not drunk. You meant what you said. So just own up to it. And the fact that every time he's like, Belly, 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 every time he says her name, she's like, don't say my name. Because even him saying her name is like a spindle of yarn getting pulled at. I don't know if that's a good metaphor, but essentially, like, it undoes her to hear her name on his lips. That's how powerful he is over her. It's like a spell, and it's breaking this facade that she has that Jeremiah is the person that she's so in love with, when the person that says her name, Conrad, in front of her literally makes her unravel. Anyway, him saying I let you off the hook was like a chef's kiss for me. Conrad has been on a journey, and I know that people don't like this about him, but I think that Conrad is a very flushed out character in many ways, in ways that other characters aren't necessarily. He's been on a healing journey. The reason why he can show up for Belly in this context that he's been for this entire summer, for this entire season, is because of the healing that he's done. He has gone to California. He has gotten into therapy. He has made new friends. He has built a life. He has pursued something that has interested him since the first season. He's going into medicine. He's had an opportunity to discover himself. He has taken himself out of an environment with his father, with his brother, and with Belly, where he was not thriving. He took himself out of the immense grief of being connected to these people and Susanna being connected to these people, and a semblance of himself. And I think it was always there. So something that I have always appreciated about Conrad is, as bad as a decision that Conrad makes, or as hurtful as he may get in the give and the take of his love, he always owns up to his mistakes, and he always apologizes for it. Even in season 1, when Belly goes, hey, I know that we just kissed. I hate to break it to you, but like, I kissed Jeremiah, and I just wanted to let you know, because now we've got to think about this. And when Belly starts to deeper explain, and she's like, well, you know, you weren't talking to me and all of this stuff and whatever, he goes, it's my fault. I'm sorry. He's been somebody who, the second that he realizes that he's made a mistake, even if the reason why he's been driven to make the mistake, an intentional mistake, most of the things that he's done have been intentional. I am intentionally letting Belly go. I am intentionally going to do this. And we don't have to understand why for all of those decisions, and we don't have to agree with them. But something that I think has always been there is the fact that he is willing to own up to his mistakes, and he's willing to apologize. Jeremiah, on the other hand, at any opportunity, overreacts, is quite bitter, is spiteful, so spiteful and so petty that we actually get like a deeper sense of that through the course of this episode. He is mean, he gaslights Belly, and he puts his emotional well-being on Belly's willingness to fluff and fan his ego, something that Conrad does not do. I'm just saying that there's something really profound about the fact that Conrad has gone through this healing journey, and while he was doing that, Belly and Jeremiah were essentially feeding bad behaviors back to each other and keeping them both stuck in a cycle that was not fruitful or good for either one of them. So I think that the fact that Belly is now going to Paris, the fact that she is going to have an opportunity to explore herself outside of these relationships. I know for me in particular, I went to college not far from where I grew up. It was far enough, but it was like I still came home a lot, and I still had a lot of commitments and obligations where I live. So I say this as somebody who then I applied to go be a part of the Disney college program, and it put me in Disney in Orlando for about 6 months, and maybe a little bit longer than that, because I think I stayed for the summer. I'm not really sure. That turned into like a couple of years that I ended up going back and forth between Disney and college. And when I went to Disney, I say it all the time, like Disney was where I had that quintessential college experience. I was forced to make new friends. I was forced to try new things. I did not have the crutch of being able to just get home whenever I wanted to. I didn't have the crutch of being able to see my family or see my boyfriend at the time whenever I wanted to. I pushed myself to new limits. I pushed myself to be more adventurous. And I know it wasn't so far. It was something like I really wanted to do. I really wanted to go to Disney, but she really wants to go to Paris. And I think there is something about going and exploring something about yourself that you're feeling called to that is really healing. So I think the fact that Conrad has gone on his sort of healing journey already, and now Belly gets to go on her healing journey and experience herself out of the context in which she has constantly been comfortable, which is with the Fisher Boys, which is at Cousins Beach. I think there is something about this that we really get to see her flourish. Like, even in college, she has one friend. She's got maybe the girls from volleyball, but like Annika is the only other friend that she really has. And she even says, like, you're the first friend that I made that wasn't Taylor, that wasn't the boys, like whatever. She doesn't really have a ton of people. And Belly is somebody who in season 1 we see is ready to grow, ready to explore new things. She meets Cameron. She wants to be friends with Shayla and the girls from the Deb Ball. Like, she's somebody who innately has a social component to her. And this has been completely dimmed by her world narrowing to just Jeremiah. So going and having this experience of healing and getting to know yourself and really being in tune with yourself, really having that quintessential college experience where you get to go and explore and try something new and see the different facets of your personality out there in the world applied in real time, that is going to be very healing for her. And I think that's what's going to ultimately allow her and Conrad to come back together in the end. Now, beyond the fact that Conrad always apologizes and always owns up to his mistakes, Jeremiah is literally the epitome of brushing something under the rug. Jeremiah literally skips out on the morning/afternoon of his wedding day. He knows that his bride-to-be is experiencing immense stress over this. He knows it. There's no possible way he does not know this. He knows that he is causing grief. He knows that he is causing stress. He knows that he is causing fear. And when he comes back, he says, I'm sorry, but I'm here now. Fine. He maybe apologizes. But when Belly's like, hey, let's just talk about this before we go and get married right now, he goes, I don't want to talk about it. Well, guess what? Your actions have consequences. And instead of just saying, hey, yeah, let's talk about it. Let's maybe just think this through for a minute. Let's just put this off for a second. Let's just sit down and discuss why I did this. Instead, what he does is bring up Conrad. And when Belly gets all overwhelmed because her fiance has been missing, her wedding's nearly been called off, everyone's out there already waiting. She just got into a fight with her best friend. No one's helping her get ready. She had to do her hair and makeup by herself. And she's having all of this stress, right? She's gotten into a fight with Conrad this morning. She got into a fight with Taylor in the afternoon. Jeremiah then proceeds to bring Conrad up and get upset with her for being upset about everything that's happened in the last 24 hours. And at no point does he ever time out to say, like, how is this impacting you? What is happening with you? What is going on with you? It's all about him. It's about how he feels inferior to Conrad and how he's putting the entire failure of their relationship on Belly. Now, already in this episode, we have Jeremiah essentially hiding the fact that he got the job at his dad's firm from Belly. He made a decision that he was not going to go to school anymore, which, by the way, like, kind of huge information, because Belly basically made the decision not to go to Paris to stay with Jeremiah, who is going to be in school for another semester. He doesn't tell her, and she's like, I would like for you to consult with me on life decisions, like, we're going to get married. And he's like, well, if you don't want me to do it, I guess I won't do it. He has had an entire arc over this season that has been bit by bit character assassination. Even the speech at the rehearsal dinner was like more of a dig at Conrad. It was like, Conrad, I love how loyal you are. After clocking that Conrad was looking at Belly. It's like, I love how loyal you are. Not to Belly, but to me. You're loyal to me, and I know that you're going to put the integrity of your loyalty first. And that's what's so frustrating, because the entire rehearsal dinner is the speech is a literal dig at Conrad when he says that, where everything else that they say about people is so genuine and so kind. Then he gives this like mini toast to Belly that is more about his mom's memory hanging over them. And there's something really specific that this brought up for me. So when I was in high school, I was dating my first love. And when I went to college in my freshman year, his father passed away. And obviously, as you can imagine, it's a lot of stress. There's a lot going on. There's a lot of feelings. And multiple times we would talk about eloping or getting married or anything like that. And much like Belly, internally somewhere I knew that like if I married this person, I was going to end up being like Belle and being their little wife. And I knew that I was meant for more than being somebody's wife. And it was always a point of contention because I didn't really know how to articulate all that I was feeling. But I can distinctly remember one of the things that was like our relationship thing was we would make breakfast together. We had met in a cooking class, and we would make breakfast together. And I remember one day he said to me, "You're the last person that I dated that my father met and knew and like loved and cared about." And I remember, and I'm probably paraphrasing however that conversation went, but I remember thinking in my head, this hyperfixation on marrying me is not really about me. It is about the connection that I have to this person that you loved and cared about. And when I started to see it that way is when the relationship started to break down for me, because I realized that the obsession of keeping me close, or this obsession of keeping me tied into the relationship, had nothing to do with me, but had to do with like, I am one small piece of his father that had not slipped through the cracks yet. It's like all these pieces of somebody that you're just slowly clinging onto and white knuckling because you love them and you care about them. And as I've said many times in this podcast, and I will say it a million times more, thank you, WandaVision, for giving us this banger of a line. What is grief if not love persevering? But I knew in that moment when he said it to me, like, my father loved you and he knew you and that's important to me. I knew in that moment that he was not marrying me for me, or that he didn't desire to marry me for me. And that was when the relationship started to disintegrate for me. And when Jeremiah was giving the speech and he said, every time I look at you, like, I feel my mother and you make me feel so close to her, you make me feel so connected to her, that's what I heard. I literally heard that this love that they have fostered has been born out of friendship, born out of trauma of Susanna dying, that they wanted to keep each other close to keep something of Susanna alive within their lives. And she says it at the end. She's like, after your mom died, you and we put each other back together. And there is a bridge between the two of them that has Susanna's name written all over it. And so I think there is something that, Jeremiah can call Belly out all she wants on her feelings for Conrad, but there are like two really distinct things that are so important here. The first is that he wants to feel connected to his mother. The second is that he wants to feel validated that he is as good in some way as Conrad. And that's it. None of it has to do with Belly. None of it has to do with how much he loves her. As much as he says that, it has nothing to do with her. It has to do with these external forces that are sort of being projected onto Belly. And I know that not only did he get the gut punch when their letters were mixed up and he gets Conrad's letter, but the absolute gut punch that he must have had when he realized that Conrad had Susanna's ring, because Susanna, based off of the letter that we see, understood that Conrad and Belly were endgame. So Susanna's ring went to Conrad because Susanna wanted Belly to have her ring. I will also say, a pen fears Conrad Fisher. A pen loves or hates to see Conrad Fisher coming, because this man writes letters. He's got his little crosswords. He's like, Merry Christmas. He wrote this letter to, it's not really a letter, but it's like a little, note. He's got the little eat me, on the chicken in the fridge with the smiley face and the cookie. A pen fears Conrad Fisher. But the fact that he had her ring and then he leaves it to Jeremiah and he goes, Belly should have this, he thinks of nothing but Belly. It's not only what Susanna wanted, it's what Belly deserves. And he knows it, and so, I don't know. Anyway, Jeremiah's crash out really feels unearned to me. It just feels like the writers spent the entire season assassinating his character, making him so cringy, so hateable, so ick-worthy, only for this separation to feel very much all on Conrad and Belly, instead of, once again, having any responsibility go himself. And when he picks this fight again with Belly and he goes, I know that you saw him during Christmas, and he goes, I know you didn't sleep together. And then Belly's like, is that why you picked the fight with me? And he goes, yes. So he's admitting that he essentially knew about Christmas. He knew nothing happened between the two of them. He knew that they didn't have sex. He knew that they didn't sleep together. He knew it. He says he knows it. But just the fact that she saw him and he knows that by seeing him, she fell in love with him a little bit again, that he decides to pick a fight with her and go and sleep with somebody twice makes that so much worse. And when he's like, I thought that we were on a break or whatever, that to me is so petty. It's so disgusting. It's so dishonest. If he would have just said, hey, I know that you were with Conrad at Christmas. Like, why did you keep it from me? And we see Belly in the episode try to tell Jeremiah that he was there. So it's not like she's keeping this ultimate secret. Their service is getting cut off before she can even say anything. And then the fact that he goes and does that is like double yikes to me. He is so petty. He's so immature. He should have just addressed it. He was waiting for her to address it. She doesn't address it. He can't bring it up for whatever reason. I would just be like, hey, by the way, so-and-so said this. Like, it's so emotionally immature that he can't just bring it up to her. And instead he goes and sleeps with somebody twice. That is so petty. And instead of being angry, Belly is defensive. Like, she's done something wrong when she didn't. And I know that, okay, fine, there's emotional cheating or whatever, but she doesn't flirt with Conrad. Until like the last 2 episodes, okay? But at Christmas, they're not really flirting. She's like, we spent the day together and we weren't even really talking. We watched a movie. We did separate things all day. We kind of just sat and enjoyed each other, and that was it. It's not like they had this crazy romantic, wild experience. I get it. Emotional cheating is a thing. I'm not trying to discredit emotional cheating. But that's not really what's happening at this point. If I was Belly and I heard my fiance, nearly an hour to be my husband, if I was to go through with this wedding, tell me that he knew that I was with his brother at Christmas time, that I didn't say anything because nothing happened, and he knows that nothing happened. He said, I know nothing happened between the two of you guys. I know that you didn't sleep together. And still picked a fight with me and then went to Cabo and fucked somebody twice. I would be fucking fuming from my ears. You know those cartoons where the steam is literally pouring out of their ears and their face is bright red? That would be me. That would be me. That would be me. That would be me. I would have reamed Jeremiah a new fucking asshole. And the fact that Belly is like, I'm sorry, I was with Conrad and I didn't want to say anything because nothing happened. Girl, you need to be angry that your fiance is this petty. Anyway. Then he says, you can't marry me to erase him, to which I want to say to Jeremiah Fisher, you can't propose and marry me to erase Lacey. We can be raw, but not resolved. I also want to go back un momento in time, because I kind of jumped right into Jeremiah's story here, but I want to go back to Conrad's speech to Belly before he leaves, and Phoebe Bridgers' Friday I'm in Love playing over it as he kisses her forehead and tells her that it was all worth it to him, that he doesn't regret it. I love Conrad Fisher like every other 30-something-year-old. I love Conrad Fisher so much, man. I would lay down on the line for him. I would lay it down for him. Just before we talked about cold feet and soldiers not wanting to go forward on the battlefield, I fear that if Conrad Fisher was being held at gunpoint, I would be turned into Swiss cheese to get that man back to safety. I love him. So, yeah. All right. Last little tidbit. Let's talk about Taylor and Laurel because they are the real ones. Taylor saying to Conrad, like, sit down, shut up, and listen to me. She doesn't say it just like that, but she gives off this dominatrix energy. And I have to tell you, if Taylor wanted to take me to bed and talk to me that way, I would be 200% down. I would be 10 toes down. I would be 10 toes down. But her talk with Conrad does feel misplaced to me. It does feel like this anger that she has after she knows that her best friend at her bachelorette party was like, I have never pictured anything in my wedding except Conrad. And then she goes and yells at Conrad. I would just be like, I don't know what's going on here, but can you explain it to me? Because all I know is that she came in last night and she was hysterical crying. And I know that she met you at the beach. So what happened? And I would be like pressing that. I think her anger is misguided. I think her anger is misplaced. I think Conrad has shown so much emotional maturity, and I know that she kind of chews out Jeremiah, but she moves on from this, like, Jeremiah cheated on you so fast, and then reams Conrad out for no particular reason, and I don't like it. I'm gonna stand up for my boy Conrad, okay? Belly calling Taylor selfish is wild to me, considering the fact that Taylor is an incredible friend to Belly. She is one of the best friends that I've ever seen on a TV show. I love her. I love Taylor almost more than I love Conrad. However, I don't know if Belly knows all of this because of everything that's been going on, but here's what I'm going to say. Calling Taylor selfish when she consistently puts Belly needs in front of her, when she puts Steven's needs in front of her, when she gave up New York City, her absolute dream, took all of the money from that and paid off her mom's debt so that her mom can be okay, is fucking wild to me. Taylor is the least selfish person I've ever met in my entire life, because if that was me, I would probably do the same thing. But to be honest, like, she's just a good friend. She's a really good daughter. And I don't understand why Belly calls her selfish, other than the fact that she's just feeling threatened and cornered and upset. The Laurel and Conrad moment, I love them. You can give them to me every episode. They are going to be my heartstring pull every episode. I also want to talk here about Steven's mixed loyalties, because ragging on Conrad after being vehemently Team Conrad last season feels really wild to me. I don't understand why he's so into Jeremiah, and I know that it's like out of sight, out of mind, but I didn't talk to my dad for many, many years, okay? I didn't talk to my dad for nearly 13 years. And in those early years, I would try and keep in touch with my extended family a little bit more. And I remember, I was a teenager at the time, and I remember I had gone to a family party with a family member who invited me to everything. They were consistent across the board. They were going to invite me. It didn't matter who was being invited. They were going to leave it up to me whether I wanted to come or not. I went to an event. My uncle went to this event, and my uncle says to me, a teenager, as an adult, he was an adult, oh, like, you never call, you never do this, you never do that. And I remember getting into my car after and being like, the phone fucking works both ways, buddy. Like, what? I don't understand how Steven could say, like, you fucked off to California and, like, no one's seen you. Bro, you're going here, there, and everywhere. You're going to New York, you're flying to Philly. Like, I don't understand. Get on a plane and go to California. What's your problem? Why can't you text and call Conrad? Why are you doing brother switching and then switching up your loyalties and then blaming that on Conrad, that Jeremiah is a more active part of your life because Belly is dating him? Like, it doesn't make any sense. I don't really understand this, and it really annoyed me. And I think Steven is incredibly loyal to Belly, and I love that. But I think his loyalty to Jeremiah is misplaced. And the fact that we have gotten this far where Conrad has confronted Jeremiah over Cabo, but that Steven and Laurel do not know about Cabo fucking bothers me. Because if Steven knew that Jeremiah cheated on Belly, we would be having a different conversation. He would be having a different conversation with Conrad. He'd be like, babe, go get her. So I don't understand why it came out the way that it did. And I'm hoping that in, like, episodes moving forward, especially because it seems like Taylor and Steven are now have a free path to get back together, which we'll talk about that in a second. With the two of them getting together, I'm wondering if they're having a conversation where then Taylor says to Steven, like, oh, well, this started way before them because Jeremiah cheated on her. I wonder if that kind of conversation is going to come up. But it's got to come out. It's got to come out to Steven and to Laurel that Jeremiah did this thing. Because Jeremiah needs to get knocked down a peg. And I'm not really sure what is going to happen for the rest of the season, because it's not just going to be Belly in Paris. It's going to have to be what Conrad goes through, what Jeremiah goes through, and obviously these other characters that we are now tying into the story. But anyway, it just annoyed me that Steven switches it up like that. Disloyal. Here are my random but crucial observations. Number 1, where is Annika? Where is Annika? Annika is missing in action. And I've seen a lot online, and I think it's very funny, where they're like, yeah, it was either pay Annika for another day of work or play Cardigan at the end of the episode, which I think is insane. I don't know what their music budget is. I would love to do some research on it. Maybe I'll do that for next episode. I don't understand how they have the music budget that they do. I understand that this is maybe a bigger TV show than I realized. By the way, I started watching XO Kitty, which is Jenny Han's best property, IMHO. I actually can't wait for season 3 so I can go back and cover season 1 and season 2, because I have never loved a character more than I love Minho. Anyway, that's a little sidebar. I don't understand what their music budget is on the show. The music on this show is wild. I don't know if they just have Amazon Prime money to throw at it, whereas like Netflix maybe has different money, because they definitely aren't playing this in like All the Boys I Loved Before, and they're definitely not playing music like this in XO Kitty. They're playing different type of music, but not like this. You have a Taylor Swift song in like every episode. I don't understand. So anyway, what is the budget? And where the fuck is Annika? I also want to talk about this Denise and Steven kiss. I don't understand why we needed to put this in this way. I thought it would have been better. I said this a couple episodes ago. If Steven goes to kiss her and she's like, oh, buddy, hey, sorry, I'm gay. I didn't mean to give off these vibes. I think that would have been better. I think Denise and Annika, that's a pairing I can get behind. Okay, I ship it. Somebody send me the AO3 link, because I know it's probably out there somewhere. But let me tell you, I don't understand why they built all of this tension. And Steven and Denise, first of all, the guy, Sean, who plays Steven, could have chemistry with a spork. He just is magnetic. I think there's something about his energy. Maybe that's just me. But him and Denise have such incredible on-screen chemistry. And I'm not saying that him and Taylor don't, because they obviously do. But again, Sean could just have chemistry with, a plant. With that being said, the kiss, only for them to be like, did you feel anything? And then being like, no, I didn't feel anything. I hated that moment. I think it was unnecessary. I don't think they needed to put this in there. Writing-wise, in order for us to get to the end result, which is Steven and Taylor being back together, I think they could have gone about this so many other ways. And instead, they just went about it in a way that really annoyed me. Now, we've disproven that Taylor is pregnant. This was a big internet rumor going around. And we know from episode 7, they're out at a bar, unrealistically drinking shots. First of all, those are shooters. They were not shots. They're drinking shooters out of actual glass, which doesn't make sense. Never ever been to a bar that has given you an actual glass shot glass. But, okay, fine. You give 10 shots to these girls, and we watch Taylor take one. So we know that Taylor's not pregnant, because honestly, at this point, it's been long enough that she would probably know. It's been all summer. She would know if she was pregnant at this point and not drink. So Taylor's not pregnant, okay? Rumor dispelled. However, is Kaylee pregnant? Let me give you my evidence breakdown. Number 1, Adam has been cheating on Susanna since before Susanna died. So we know that Adam was cheating on Susanna with Kaylee in the first season, and she talks about it being between the summer of the year prior, when they last saw Laurel, to this summer. Okay? That means that it's been about 5 or 6 years, give or take, that Adam has been in a relationship with Kaylee. All of a sudden, he decides to put it out there. It's been 4 years. He's been cheating on her for a long time, which, by the way, I think that also needs to come out, but whatever. We'll see how that unfolds. Why is he putting it out now, if not for the fact that she's pregnant? When they are giving the toasts, the awkward speeches at the rehearsal dinner, they toast to everybody, and very deliberately, because Conrad is next to Adam and Kaylee, it's supposed to be looking like it's cutting to Conrad, but Kaylee is the only one that doesn't drink as they cheers, as they toast. Kaylee doesn't drink, and I clocked it, and I was like, ooh, I bet you that bitch is pregnant. So that's my guesstimation, okay? Somebody's coming out of the season pregnant, and it's going to be Kaylee. Belly using the wedding gift tickets that Laurel gives her to run away from her life and her problems to Paris is iconic, but also criminal. I feel that if you don't go through with the wedding, you should not use the pre-wedding gift that you got from your mother, even though I'm sure her mother would have given it to her either way. But I'm just saying it's criminal. Using that feels very Bonnie and Clyde. It feels very much like a robbery. Knowing that Adam has to foot the bill for this wedding after he just tried to clean Laurel out like 4 episodes ago, was sweet retribution for me. And last but not least, using Skinny Love in this episode tells me that they know that this show is meant for millennials, despite the fact that my 17-year-old sister consistently tells me that the demographic is Gen Z. No, it is not, baby. It is meant for millennials. Cardigan, on the other hand, I was not sure how I felt about Cardigan being placed here. I didn't know if I thought it was the best choice. I'm not saying it was a bad choice. Have I been singing it all week? Yes. Did I think it was the right thing? I don't know. I don't know how I feel about it. Okay? And that is our Slay by Slay. Let's crack open the burn book where we look at the superlatives for this episode. The Bold and Bothered Award. This award is strictly for the Femme and Furious. It is the quote or the moment that really relays the feminine rage that exists within all of us. And that would be Taylor yelling at Conrad when she was like, sit down, and then he tries to get up and she's like, I said sit down, bitch. Love that. Love that entire moment. While she was like kind of sweaty in her little suit, in her little tracksuit, in her athleisure wear, that's a better word. I loved it. Loved this entire moment. The Shiro Award is the award that goes to the baddie who is the most inspiring or the moment that is the most empowering. And this to me is Laurel comforting Conrad, going out there with a beer, knowing that he's struggling, knowing that he's upset, and just trying to get him to open up and be a little bit more emotionally vulnerable was really cute to me. I love anything that has to do with Laurel and Conrad because that is the son that she deserves. I'm sorry, it's not like Steven's a bad son, but that's the son-in-law that she deserves. Let's put it that way. The Femme Fatale Award. This goes to the most smash the patriarchy moment of each episode, and that would be Belly asking Jeremiah if they can talk about everything that has just happened, and Jeremiah absolutely fucking refusing and saying that he doesn't want to talk about it, and Belly being like, I think we need to talk about it. I thought her advocating for herself here and being like, hey, we just can't brush past this, like, you left. I thought that was really important, and I thought that was a very, fuck you to what men try to do to us. All right, the Speak Your Truth trophy, which goes to the best quote, and the honorary heartthrob is going to the same moment. And I really tried to break this down into two separate things, and I can't because it's one moment. The Speak Your Truth trophy and the honorary heartthrob both go to Conrad showing up in her dressing room, is that what we're calling it? In her wedding dressing room and saying, I don't regret it. Loving you. Do you know that meme of SpongeBob where he's just has the hole dug out that's perfect for him and then he lays down and swipes the sand over him? That's how I felt in this moment because there's nothing that could top it. It was just peak romance, and I fear that I am just a girly who loves to be swept off her feet. I'm a hopeless romantic. What can I say? Biggest belly flop. Susanna fumbling the letters. And The Sounds of Summer. This goes to the best needle drop of the episode, and that to me was Friday, I'm in Love, a song that was trending on my birthday, though not this version of it, the actual version of The Cure. Not my birthday this year, by the way, the birthday of the year that I was born. So this song is always special to me. There is just no way that I'm ever going to hear this in any social or emotional context and not be moved by it. And this version by Phoebe Bridgers is chef's kiss. Perfect. So that is our episode. Thank you so much for tuning in to Femme Furious. Share this out with your friends if you enjoyed it. Invite them into the conversation. And I will see you on Friday. We are starting to cover Stranger Things, starting at season 1. We are covering season 1, episodes 1 through 4. So we'll be breaking it down so that you can go through your rewatch in a way that is digestible and will help lead us up to the newest season, which is coming out on Thanksgiving. So we will be covering season 1 of Stranger Things, episodes 1 through 4 this Friday. And then I will see you again next Tuesday with next episode of The Summer I Turned Pretty. And until then, pack your bags, go to Paris. I'll see you soon.